Welcome everybody. Okay, I'm going to teach you guys how to draw hands because hands can be confusing. So you're probably looking at this thing and seeing my little hand here and looking at a bunch of weird shapes. I have written here a peanut. We have something that's supposed to be a thumb, and this says hand, so I suppose the hand is somewhere along here, and the finger line. So what I want you to do is take your left hand and hold it up so that the palm of your hand faces away. What you'll notice is that your fingers aren't straight. Your fingers are curved. A lot of people tend to draw their fingers straight, and you don't want to do that. You want to draw them curved. Another thing you'll notice is that your thumb seems to be all on its own in its own world. So what I usually start with is a nice kind of square shape to represent the bulk of the hand, and then a smaller shape to represent where the thumb will be. Now, why do I have peanuts drawn here? Well, a peanut, that's the shape we're going to make in order to make our hands. Oh gosh, do I want to change the color scheme? Keep the current color scheme and don't ever show this again. That's embarrassing. Alright, anyway, back to business. So, a peanut is the shape we're going to use to draw our fingers. So let's always keep that in mind when drawing fingers, toes, anything like that. Even for other types of creatures, it works the same way. So, what do we do with this? We have our basic palm, our basic thumb, and our basic peanut. We also know our finger line. That's the line that our fingers make. Usually our middle finger is going to be the longest one, followed by the ring finger, the index finger, and then the pinky. And then the thumb is somewhere over here. So the next step, and I have it all in layers here to make it easy for me, the next step is going to be to add some details. So we'll do it like this. So in this one, all I did is I took that little peanut shape and I repeated it here. This way I have 1, 2, 3 joints. Now the last joint, that's where the nail will go. So that's like half a peanut. Imagine, like sometimes you open a bag of peanuts and you see the half peanut. Well, that's like where your nail goes. Look at your index finger or something for a reference, and you'll notice there's some bulky parts, and then there's some thin parts of your finger. Well, the bulky parts, those tend to have a lot of wrinkles, so we'll get back to that in a little bit. But wherever we see overlapping lines, like right here or right here, you'll probably have a lot of wrinkles. So let's get back to the main hand now. So I added a couple lines to say, okay, this is where my arm is coming in. Nothing too fancy. Then I traced over my palm and I added where my finger should go. As always, my middle finger is my biggest one, and then my my ring finger, and then my index finger, and then my pinky. So they're kind of teetering off. They're tapering off, and this one tapers off stronger than this side. So another thing is placement of the fingers. In this picture, I tend to I have them a little bit too much this way. They should be a little bit more centered, but that's not the point. I mean, the point of this is to draw a basic hand, right, for some simple sketches. So now we have our peanuts. We have our 2 peanuts per finger and half a peanut, so 2.5 peanuts on all of them. And yes, they're all shaped weird and different. That's okay. It's not going to matter much, and you'll see why in a bit. So let's clean this up real quick. So that's my clean hand now. And what you see is now it's starting to look like a real hand. We have some overlapping parts, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. All over here, see all those joints? That's where the joints are of the finger. That's how the finger will move. And then we have our wrist, our thumb, which kind of like a big bulk, and then a peanut and a half. Imagine like this is one big peanut. And that's our standard finger. So now what we'll do is add some detail to it. And I added a lot of detail for this. So let me zoom in. I'll zoom in here and I'll clean it up in a little bit. First, let's look at this finger. So we have our 2 peanuts. I'm just zoomed in on the first finger that we started with. We have our 2 peanuts and then a half a peanut here. Well, here's what's happening. Wherever there is overlap, I'm going to add a couple lines. If you look at your finger, wherever your finger bends, there tends to be a little bit extra skin there. So you get some wrinkles or some lines. So that's what that is done for. So let me go back out on this. Let me take this and bring it down to 40 just to make it even, because I nitpick on myself. Okay, so now let's get back to the hand. All I did was I traced out the outside of the hand, not the inner parts. I just traced out the outside, even if it's a little lopsided, that's okay. Eventually we want to get them better and better, but for now that's okay. And if you notice, I try to keep the lines as close to the original as possible, but here, for example, I cut it in a little bit because remember I put my fingers too far in. So if you put your fingers more centered, you might not have to cut in here. So it's just a matter of gauging, and with practice, makes better and better. So now let's clean this up, and there's our clean hand. So this is going to be our final sketch of a hand. Now remember, it's just a sketch. So wherever I saw overlap, wherever the overlaps were, if you see here, all these parts, the kind of thicker parts of the fingers, we are going to add wrinkles there. So we added some wrinkles everywhere that you see here. See all those wrinkles? Over here too. And then here, this is kind of like your knuckles. I had a little bit of knuckles and some veins just to make sure that it's clear that we're looking at the top of the hand and not the palm of the hand. So hopefully this helped out. This is a simple tutorial on how to draw hands. And now you can get to sketching. Maybe try to sketch your own hand in different positions. It really helps out. So thank you, everybody.